Dear classic children, I am here with a new chapter, that is chapter number 5, light. Okay, so light. So let's begin. Light is a form of energy. Okay, it is a form of energy. There are different forms of energy, but among them, light is also the one with the help of which we can see around. We can see the objects. Okay, if there is no light, nothing can be seen. Okay, so it is a form of energy. Or form of energy. Okay, it is a form of energy. It is a form of energy. Okay, so there are many sources of light. You see the stars, the sun. Okay, they also produce light. Similarly, there are candles, tube lights, okay, bulb. So these are also the ones which also produce light. That means those which produce light are the sources of light. Okay, but here what you find is that some are there which are found there in the nature itself. There are some natural bodies which produce light, and some are there which are man-made. So on the basis of these, so the sources of light are again categorized into two types. So they are natural sources and artificial sources. Okay, so first, natural sources of light. Natural sources of light. So natural sources of light are those which are found there in the nature itself, which are some natural objects. For example, the stars, the suns are the ones which produce their own light. So they are the natural sources of light. Okay, like you see, sun, okay, stars, so are the natural bodies which produce their own light. So they fall under the natural sources of light. Okay, and the other category of the sources of light is the artificial sources of light. Artificial. So artificial sources of light are those which are man-made. They also produce light, but they are man-made. They are made by human beings. Okay, for example, you see candle. Okay, so candles. Okay, tube light, etc. So these are the ones which also produce light, but they are made by human beings. So the sources of light are of two types. They are natural and artificial. Okay, now we'll see the types of objects. Types of objects. Types of objects. So types of objects based on the capacity of the objects to produce or to emit light. Okay, some of the objects are there which emit their own light. They produce their own light, which can produce the light. Okay, and some are there which cannot emit light or which cannot produce light. So on the basis of that, there are two types of objects again. So they are luminous objects, okay, and non-luminous objects. Alright, so two types of objects, luminous and non-luminous objects. Okay, so luminous objects are those objects which can emit their light, which can produce their light. Okay, for example, all those like sun, stars, candles, tube light, so all of them can emit their light. They can produce light. Okay, whether they are natural or artificial, but they emit light. So they come under luminous objects. Those objects which can emit the light are called luminous objects. Okay, for example, sun, stars, candles, tube light, etc. Whether they are man-made or natural, if they can produce light, if they can emit light, they come under these luminous objects. Okay, and on the other hand, you find the non-luminous objects. So non-luminous objects are those which cannot emit the light. which cannot produce the light. For example, you see bag, okay, chairs. So all those bed, wall, this board which cannot emit light, books which cannot emit light, all come under non-luminous objects. Okay? So as we have already come to know that light is very important to see the objects. Okay, so how it is seen is that you see the light interacts with the objects that you are looking at. Okay, so until and unless light interacts with the objects, things cannot be seen. How it happens is that light comes and interact with that object and takes the image of that object into your eyes. Then the image in your eyes is formed. Then it is seen. Okay, so unless it happens, which means unless there is light, things cannot be seen. So that means it is possible when there is an interaction between the light and the objects that you are looking at. Okay, so now the objects, the different types of objects on the basis of the amount of light passing through them. Okay, some of the objects are there through which the light completely pass. In some cases, the light partially passes. Okay, in some of the objects, the light cannot, pass through. Okay, that means some of the objects are there through which light cannot pass. So on the basis of that, there are three kinds of objects. They are transparent objects, translucent and opaque objects. Transparent, translucent and opaque. Okay, so please remember the that spellings also. Alright, so first let us talk about transparent objects. So transparent objects are those objects through which the light can completely pass. Okay, so there are objects, okay, which allow the light to pass through them completely. Okay, so those objects which allow the light to pass through them completely are called transparent objects. Okay, transparent objects, which are also shown there in your book along with the diagrams. You can see here example: clear water, clear water. Okay, then your cellophane sheet or cellophane paper. All right, then even glass bowl made up of glass, okay, which is transparent. In the meantime, your fish tank where the fishes are kept. So usually is made up of that your glass, transparent glasses, so that the light can pass through it and it helps the life there inside the tank. So they are the ones which belong to transparent objects, because through them the light can completely pass. All right, so they are transparent objects. Then comes your translucent objects. So translucent objects are those objects which allow the light to pass through them partially. Okay, partially means not completely, not fully, but partially. Okay, so such kinds of objects are called translucent objects. Objects through which the light can partially pass. Okay, for example, you see butter paper as shown there in the book. Okay, diagram is given, butter paper, clouds, even clouds. You see the clouds when you see them in the sky during this monsoon season especially. Okay, so if it is not raining, so that time usually what we see is that partial amount of light coming from the sun passing through this cloud also. So that cloud comes under translucent objects. All right, similarly tinted glass which you see there in the book also. Okay, which is slightly painted, okay, which will allow the partial amount of light to pass through them. So they also come under translucent objects. Okay, and the last category of object is your opaque object. So opaque objects are those which do not allow the light to pass through them. Completely no light will be passing through this kind of objects called opaque objects. For example, wood, okay, wood, brick, okay, brick, as you see a brick, even book, okay, book. So you can try there in the night, usually when there is no light. So just take a book and just glow, or turn the your torchlight on, and try to make the light pass through it. Okay, so it will not go through this book, which means this book will not allow the light to pass through it. Okay, so that book also comes under your opaque objects. Okay, these are the different kinds of objects on the basis of the amount of light to pass through them. Okay, they are transparent, translucent, and opaque objects. Okay, so today we'll do only this much. We learn less but understand more. Okay, so that's what I believe in. So I think this would be enough for this session. All right, so thank you very much.